KOCT, its board of directors, staff, and the City of Oceanside do not support nor promote any candidates. We provide the following program as a public service for voters. All candidates have been invited to participate in this program, but not all were able to or chose to do so.
Good afternoon. Welcome to KOCT's Election 2024. This is coverage of Oceanside's November city elections. I'm KOCT board member Kent Davey. I'm a retired newspaper editor and journalist. I'm joined today by fellow board member Amy Forsyth, who is an author, speaker, and veteran Marine combat correspondent. We will today be talking first to the mayoral candidates for the City of Oceanside, but before I introduce them, I would like to thank the Veterans Association of North County for providing and hosting this event. Today we'll act as moderators for forums talking to incumbent Mayor Esther Sanchez and her challenger, Deputy Mayor Ryan Keim. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to give an opening statement, beginning first with the mayor and then Mr. Keim. Amy and I will engage the candidates in conversation for about 50 minutes with questions and comment. Then each candidate will be given an opportunity to close. So let's begin. Amy? Or excuse me, Esther.
Thank you. Hi, I am your Oceanside Mayor, Esther Sanchez, the People's Mayor. 4 years ago, you elected me to the first woman mayor of Oceanside because of my track record of getting things done for the people. I am running to take back local control. Starting at City Hall, let's take back Oceanside. I've been the champion for affordable housing, helping to create over 1,000 affordable units, homes for our community. Unfortunately, after Mr. Keim's appointment to the council, everything changed. Mr. Keim's supermajority switched priorities, even denying affordable housing projects. I've been advocating for a homeless shelter since before Keim's appointment to the council, urging acquisition of Ocean Shores for this. I supported staff's recommendation. Unfortunately, Keim's council majority did not want to spend the money to address homeless, delaying the shelter for over 2 years, causing the city to use a voucher program. We need to stop the migration of homeless to our neighborhoods in the eastern part of the city. We need to do that now. I've been advocating for traffic and parking studies for years, and Keim's council majority has been silent. We need to ensure safe routes to school now, not in 24 years. We need to protect our communities from unsafe streets. I've been advocating for getting sand on our beach for over 20 years. We had an early opportunity to go with raising the hotel tax to do sand replenishment projects every year. But due to a developer-controlled majority, like Keim's, we did nothing. We need sand now. It is my leadership, not Mr. Keim's, that has gotten to a more science-based project called Rebeach. Mr. Keim wasted valuable time and money on a DOA idea, getting all the cities to the south of us to pass resolutions against Oceanside. I brought in the North County Coastal Mayors and Coastal Commission, and I have turned this around. My leadership fixed Keim's mess. We need a people's council with a people's mayor to get back on track for the people. We need to take back local control. We need to take back Oceanside. Vote Esther for mayor, the people's mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Esther. Ryan.
Hi, I'm Ryan Keim, Oceanside Deputy Mayor and District 3 Council Member. It has been my honor to serve our residents in Oceanside for the majority of my career. I started as an Oceanside police officer, where I worked in the community policing units and gang units, where we decreased violent gang crime by 60% in a decade. I was honored to be appointed to City Council 5 years ago, where I could use those same common sense policies to make our city the safest and most livable beach city in California. And these aren't just ideas that happen during election time. These are tangible things we have accomplished the last 5 years to make our city better. I have led the first real project to restore our beaches in decades. I fought against the very unfair vehicle mileage tax that would punish Oceanside drivers and charge them for every mile they drove. I also opened our first homeless shelter. This homeless shelter not only allows us to provide compassionate services for those that will accept them, but it also allows our officers to enforce our critical quality of life laws and enforce our encampment rules. We have to do this to keep our city safe. It has been my priority to make sure public safety is at the top of my list. I think that's our most important job as local leaders. And this dedication to protecting our residents and keeping our city safe has earned me the support of almost every major law enforcement and public safety organization in the county. I have the support of the Oceanside Police Officers Association, the Oceanside Fire Association, the San Diego Deputy District Attorneys Association, the Deputy Sheriff's Association, and the San Diego Police Officers Association. I am law enforcement's choice because our public safety officials know it's my priority to do everything we can to protect our residents. I'm going to continue doing that and continue to use common sense to make Oceanside the best coastal city in California. I'd appreciate your support this November to lead Oceanside as your next mayor.
Thank you, Brian. Amy, would you like to start the conversation with a question?
Yeah, thank you both for being here. You've outlined your priorities, your objectives of how you plan to move your priorities forward. But to kick us off, would you describe your leadership style and how that differs from your opponent? Esther, we'll start with you.
Thank you. My leadership style is simply this. I respond to the community, I listen to the community, and whenever there is an issue, I make sure that we address it as much as we can. So I unfortunately have not been part of KIME's majority, so unfortunately we do have policies right now that need to be changed. We need more money for homeless. It can't be a cop solution. I mean, that's what I'm hearing from Mr. KIME is cop, 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 cop. We need a community policing model, and that's what we have, but we can't solve it with homeless with cops. We really, really, really need more money for homeless to address it and to make sure that our communities on the eastern part of our city do not get homeless on their streets.
Okay, your leadership style?
You know what, and I think it's a challenge across the whole country right now. You're seeing this divide in partisan politics. And that's reason I enjoy local politics is it's not partisan, and we're just trying to come up with common sense solutions for our residents. I wish all five of us could work together and compromise and really make good policy, and it's a challenge. I think especially where I differ from the incumbent is I treat everyone with dignity and respect, especially those that I disagree with on policy. You know, it's been a challenge. Our current mayor was reprimanded for violating our ethics code and being verbally abusive to staff members. I don't think that's okay. We have real problems in this city to solve. It doesn't start by council fighting on the dais. It's as us putting our differences aside, coming together and really making that tough policy. I mean, we have the most pressing homeless crisis that we've had in decades. That takes real leadership and partnership to solve and bring these resources. We have to fix our beaches. And this is not about finger pointing. This is about working together, working with our staff, and actually encouraging them and giving them the ability and motivation to go out and work hard and fix these problems. On council, we don't actually go out and do the work. We hire great staff, and we have to treat them that way and get great work done. Thank you.
Let me pursue the homeless question. Recently, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled that cities may ban homeless people from sleeping outside in public places, parks, the so-called encampments on public ground. Do you support such a policy? Would you like to see the city adopt such a policy? Esther?
Thank you. During the pandemic, we never stopped addressing our homeless issues. I mean, we knew what the court ruling was, but we always wanted to address this with compassion. And we don't want to just, and I certainly don't want to just move homeless from one part of the city to another. So we need to actually have a complete plan. No, we don't need to change anything because in terms of that law, because we're already doing it. We are already clearing homeless from homeless encampments. But we need to do more than that. And for that, we just got $11.4 million where we can learn best practices on how we are going to completely address our homeless, not just push them around. Right. It's not humane.
Brian, same question?
Yes, and this is an issue that's I'm very familiar with, it's just being a former police officer. We have to take a tough two-prong approach, and we're doing that. We need to do better. First, we need to provide services with compassion to those that will accept them. But a very important other prong is we have to enforce our quality of life laws. And unfortunately, sometimes it does involve police officers. But our goal is never to send someone to jail or prison for homelessness. But we have to address the root causes of some of our service-resistant individuals and help with treatment for substance abuse, with mental health, and provide these resources. Partner with the state, the county, to make sure we actually have a place that will address that. Let's just say addiction treatment. We can't tell someone you have to go get addiction treatment if there's no options out there, and those are what we have to work on. But I'll tell you one thing I've heard, is our residents in our city expect us to be safe and protect them and have clean streets. We can't have people shooting up fentanyl on the sidewalks, tent encampments blocking the way to parks. I mean, that's not acceptable. In our city, as mayor, I'm gonna make sure that with compassion, we're actually able to enforce our quality of life laws and keep our residents and families safe.
Okay, thank you. You both mentioned in your opening remarks the sand and beaches and what a vital role that plays in our economy in terms of tourism and our quality of life being a beach town.
Yes.
You both mentioned that, but the City Council unanimously approved a $30 to $50 million sand restoration project for the beaches. And for folks at home who may not know just how important that issue is, can you describe your position replenishing the sand and how it differs from your opponent? Esther, start with you.
Start with me, okay. I was born and raised in Oceanside, part of a 5-generation Oceanside family. Bottom line is I grew up on the beach, on our beaches in Oceanside, and so I have an absolute love for our beaches. Body surfing, boogie boarding, the whole thing when I was in high school. So the beach is very, very critical to me. I have been, since being in council and learning about sand replenishment projects, and you know that is not the long-term goal, but certainly it is a short-term goal. And so I've been wanting to find a way to have a dedicated stream, a revenue stream, so that we can have sand replenishment projects every year. I tried to get that. Solana Beach did it first, and then I said, hey, can you come down here, Mr. Mayor, and come and basically tell us what's happening in Solana Beach and how that can happen here in Oceanside. And unfortunately, I couldn't get a second on the council. So even now, even through this time, I have been pushing for that short term, at least get sand on our beaches and do it now, and also a long-term solution. Unfortunately, my approach is more about doing it as a regional project, and getting support from the region and also from the Coastal Commission, because if you don't get support from the Coastal Commission, it's never going to happen. So my approach was, let's all work together, and I'm talking about a nonpartisan basis. I mean, I have really, really been at the regional level, have been more than Mr. Keim, been able to work with others well to get things done. Unfortunately, my council colleagues are very partisan. Mr. Keim, the first thing he told me was, well, I can't work with you because you have a D after your name. I mean, that was really early on my first year with him. And
That's
like,
that's
oh
very
gosh.
untrue. That is.
So yeah,
very
it was,
disappointing.
and I can tell you about the facts there. But bottom line is, as to the beaches, we do need a solution. This is because of what's happening with climate. We need to protect our public infrastructure, and we definitely have to address ensuring that we have sand on our beaches.
Ryan, would you respond on
just and for the forum too, I really hope that we're honest in this forum. That was I've never once said that to you, Mayor, and I wouldn't say that. That's one of my priorities. There's a work, it doesn't matter political party in the city. I'll tell you, here it's a very simple difference between the mayor and I. I actually want to get a project done. And you're hearing this is a priority, this is a priority. Well, the current mayor's been on council for 24 years. I came on in 2019, and that's what we started to do right away. So I'm a lifelong surfer. Right now, some of my favorite beaches I grew up going to are gone. 2/3 of our beaches are just rock up to the revetment. These are issues that are caused with development over decades and decades, whether it's the harbor, the revetment, building on the bluffs. Those are issues that I can't remove the harbor. I can't undam rivers, but we have to be creative. And so that's one thing when I got here and I realized in what a dire situation we were in, and nobody was taking action, we took that first step, and we're learning along the way how to actually get it done. But you know, there's $500 million in tourism spending a year that's focused around the beach in Oceanside, but that's not the most important part. It's the #1 recreation activity for our city. But it's been a priority, I mean, since day one on council, and that's what I really hope is that I can work with the mayor and that we can bridge that gap. And if I was very, I was more optimistic. We had a 5-0 unanimous vote for our Beach project. I don't need the credit for it. It doesn't matter. I just want our beaches fixed, and I'm really looking forward to actually getting it done and getting other cities on board. And our Beach project, the best part about it is it's going to be regional, and this project's going to be an example for cities up and down the coast as they're dealing with any type of coastal erosion.
Yeah. Later this year or early next year, the city, I believe the city staff is expected to bring a recommendations for a general plan update. What elements of this plan do you believe need to be updated and must be included as we update this general plan? Esther?
Well, we definitely need an updated circulation element that is going to address our traffic issues, our circulation issues that go hand in hand with our parking issues. That is very, very critical. Of course, land use. I mean, we need to ensure the protection of our farmland. We need to ensure that where we have planned for a higher density to address our arena numbers, that it actually makes sense. I've already seen a couple of places where it doesn't make sense, and why have a plan that is not going to work, right? So that is a very, very critical thing for me. And by the way, $5 million and 3 years later, we don't have one grain of sand on our beach. I thought we would at least have a sand replenishment project, and no sand. Thank you.
General plan?
A circulation element is obviously important as we have more traffic, but I think one of the critical parts is it's the smart and sustainable corridors. And that's one thing, as we protect local control, and we have these mandates from Sacramento, with the density bonus laws that take away a lot of local discretion from development, and it moves more density into single-family neighborhoods. We can meet arena numbers, which are regional housing needs assessment numbers. We can meet those by not changing any zoning in our single-family neighborhoods, and we can actually focus on smart growth and the smart and sustainable corridors and build next to where there is public transportation, the major arterials, and focus there. And that's what we need to do. And that'll allow us to continue to push back when Sacramento forces these building laws onto cities and say, no, look, we're planning appropriately. We can handle this in the right areas. We don't have to go and completely change the character of single-family neighborhoods. It's something that we need to fight together on.
Does that signal then support for ideas like the recent proposal to build 900 or plus units over by El Corazon and in the Moon Valley nursery area by the Utah development firm?
I'm really sad about that because I had gone to staff and talked about we need to buy that property so that we can control the project. It was right after the charter school was trying to buy the property for their new site, and it fell through. And I really, really pushed staff, let's do this, and it didn't get done. And now we have a project that is going to increase, a potential project, I should say, because it's just, something out there that could basically destroy Oceanside Boulevard in terms of the traffic and the congestion and not be able to have people move through there. We ought to be focused on using, getting us to use the Sprinter, and we're not doing that. We're not doing that as a city. And again, that's a circulation element. That's a big issue for me.
With regard to that Moon Valley project proposal, any thoughts?
Yeah, it was a preliminary, it hasn't come to council, obviously. Right. It was a preliminary information to staff, but no, I'm very concerned. And I know there's challenges with the topography, with protected habitat. It's a problem, and I think, but that's what we're getting out of Sacramento, and it's important that people understand that you're getting these huge projects pushed down, and maybe, and we need to, and just because it's by the Sprinter, it doesn't mean that you can pack as many units as you want, and that's a concern. Right? I mean, and talking about the Sprinter doesn't get a lot of people in Oceanside to where they work, and that's a challenge, and that's why spending money on just a Sprinter instead of real transportation needs is a challenge, and we have to really rethink and fight at Sandag to make sure we get the road repairs and the infrastructure, the road infrastructure we deserve up here.
Shifting just a little bit, this is on folks' mind a lot. I know you get lots of questions, but we want to get your position on it. The pier repair, the Oceanside Pier suffered considerable damage after a fire in late April. Estimates to repair the pier range from $20 million. Where will the money come from? What is the timeline? And how do you differ, or do you find common ground on how that will be fixed?
I was really shocked when I first saw the fire and started getting videos from people who were there already as I was driving in. And it was an opportunity that I don't think we'd ever see again. It's like a 100-year kind of a situation. And our firefighters did such a phenomenal job. And all the other agencies that responded, it was pretty fantastic. I mean, it was pretty devastating when I first got there and saw what was happening, and very concerned that we were going to lose more of the pier. But due to their efforts, we saved 93%. Our pier is fully insured, and the operator of the hotel, the restaurant, fully insured. So. We're moving forward. I was concerned that we were going to have to pay a ginormous bill for the agencies that responded, even SDG&E, the private agencies, Manson's construction. But it's, basically they're saying no, we're not submitting a bill.
So the insurance will cover the entire
The insurance
load?
is covering, yeah. So very, very optimistic that this is going to happen within two to 4 years, that we're going to get our pier back. I mean, I'm hoping that we go as quickly as possible, but of course, we have to ensure that we do the best. This is an iconic pier. It's actually hooked in to, basically, we're also reconstructing the concrete part. It's nearing 100 years old. So that is a project that we were working on at the same time. To do that, to break it all down and rebuild it per the way it's always looked. Our iconic pier.
Right.
I think this is one area where we agree on how important it is to us. Down there at the fire, the mayor and I were standing together and making sure everyone knew that city staff had the resources and the support to get this done. And I think our big challenge will be once we start demolition of the restaurant, then we're going to see how badly the pilings were burned out there and if they need to be replaced or repaired, and so that'll kind of dictate how long it's going to take. But I'm hoping going forward, whoever's on council is going to make it the same priority that we're making it right now and get it back up and running.
Thank you.
There was mention early in the conversation about the mileage assessment that Sandag, I believe, abandoned about 1.5 years ago. That was to put on commuters basically a tax on the miles driven. Was that a good idea or a bad idea?
Oh, yes, me? Yes. It should never have happened. It should never have happened, but they quickly took it off. So I'm really surprised that Mr. Keim continues to take credit for something that was done even before he was even assigned to Sandag. But no, it was quickly done, the year before he was appointed. So no, that would have been really, really unfair. We would have had people who are driving in from far places because there is no public transportation to work, and these are the folks who have the least ability to afford that tax. Mm-hmm. So it was a poor idea. We need to do something that is much more in tune with our community and where people work. And as to the Sprinter, I just want to respond to that. When I mentioned the Sprinter, it was supposed to come with shuttles. It was supposed to get us to at least Tri-City, our major places, Tri-City, North County Courthouse, Miracosta, we got nothing of that. That was part of the entire Sprinter. Now that happened before I even got on the council, so I wasn't part of the deal that I was involved in, but we need to do something better in terms of public transportation.
Ryan, with regard to this mileage assessment, one of the arguments for a mileage assessment is as society or drivers move to more and more electric vehicles and hybrid vehicles, they no longer pay a gas tax, which theoretically at least goes back to support road repair, construction, so on and so forth. Without some sort of measure like that, what do you do about your freeways?
So, and that's the challenge. However, right now, I don't want to double, triple tax drivers of combustion engines, and that's what it would have done. And it's not just the local tax, and I think, I hope the mayor for a second, it was still the vehicle mileage tax was still being used to calculate future improvements and mitigation. And so when I took that out, it was for future plans. So now they had to recalculate. And this is going forward. I'm going to go back to Transnet. Transnet passed in 2004, and the voters were given options and reasons why to vote for these projects. Part of those were the 78 and the I-5 interchange, where we have a stoplight. Other ones, an extra lane on the 78. These are projects promised in 2004 who've been pushed aside, and we haven't gotten any of them. I've been fighting at Sandak to bring this money back, and they're still pushed out. They're not even starting design and engineering for the I-578 for 5 years. And so when you are going to levy a mileage tax, that is the most regressive tax. Think about someone, an electrician or a plumber in Oceanside who can't take mass transit, is not getting any of the benefit of this mass transit that's happening in San Diego, has to wait at the stoplight at the 78 and the 5, and then you're going to ask him to pay for every mile from the county, and that would be on top of any possible California mileage tax. So you could have 2 mileage taxes, and our drivers in Oceanside, I mean, it's the most regressive tax there is that hurts. You know, we're the second lowest median income beach city, and if mass transit's not an option, and we have to use cars to take our kids to school and soccer practice and get to work, and we're going to get triple taxed on that and not see any benefit, it's wildly unfair. And that's why I was happy. We had a 15-4 vote to remove the mileage tax.
Mayor Sanchez, are you happy with the progress or lack of progress on the 78 I-5 interchange that we've talked about for years around here?
We've talked about for years. I'm actually a little more optimistic about it at this point because the proposal is to restart the project. So none of the, it's got to be a flyover and it's going to be, 30, 40 feet up in the air and it's going to ruin our South O community and the air quality and all that. In fact, flyovers are no longer really favored by Caltrans. So I'm actually really optimistic. I invited Caltrans to a South O meeting because they needed to know what the public wants to see in terms of a final project. So other coastal cities are getting lots and lots of money to underground, to do all kinds of things, right? So we deserve the best project. South O deserves the best project. So I'm optimistic, again, because of current laws, we're not going to see flyovers anymore. And I'm really happy about that.
Right.
I'm concerned. I voted against the last budget for Sandag because it was pushed so far out. So we have, use an example, we have projects down in central San Diego that are spending hundreds of millions of dollars just on environmental documents. And yet, and that's getting spent right now in this fiscal year and next fiscal year for the people mover at the airport, for different things. And whether that's important or not, these aren't even board-approved, Sandag board-approved projects or voter-approved projects, and yet you have a voter-approved project at Transnet that was 20 years ago, and I'm on the board fighting, and it's $25 million allocated for design and engineering in 28, 29, and the other 25 and 29 and 30. And it's just not fair to our residents when they went to the ballot box in 2004, they supported it because these projects were listed as priorities. And 20 years later, we have no accountability. And I hope Oceanside, we come together and actually get resources and infrastructure for our tax dollars. It's very frustrating.
Okay, thank you both. Shifting gears just slightly, you both mentioned public safety and crime in your opening remarks as your priorities and concerned areas. Crime is reported down, the good news. Violent crime down 9% in 2023, gang-related crime down 12%, catalytic converter theft down 53%. What do you think has contributed to these new statistics, and what areas or how will the city work to sustain those gains, or what does your leadership style bring that will enforce that and give the public a sense of they can trust you to make sure that crime continues to go down?
Thank you very much. Really, the groundwork was laid in the early 2000s when I got on the city council. We had a very high crime rate, and it was time for something to happen. So I got on. I realized that one of the things that was happening with our police department, for example, was it was a revolving door because we had police officers that were being paid the lowest in the county. So I pushed really hard to get our police officers better paid, so we wouldn't be having a retention problem anymore, plus better trained. I actually pushed the community policing model. I had heard about what was going on. I was in the grassroots and I was hearing all that was happening, and I knew that the communities wanted to stop the gang wars, basically. Because now we had older former gang members who didn't want anything to happen to their kids or their nieces or nephews. So they were trying to say, okay, how can we come together? Unfortunately, we did have an officer shot down, and Dan Besant. It was horrendous. That was actually the peak of the violence that we had. And I went to the Samoan community. I went to the 12 churches of the Samoan community who needed to be part of the resolution of the reach out to the community and saying, what are we going to do about our youth? How are we going to reach them? And so there was a whole grassroots movement that started after this horrendous event that happened. And we had a police officer who was assigned to the investigation, Sylvia,
Sylvia O'Brien.
Sylvia O'Brien, I was going to say, she grew up in the neighborhood with me, and her maiden name. But pretty much she was in charge of that, and so she knew the community. She knew how to move around and ensure that there was not going to be any kind of violence after that. It was truly, we were having a transition in chiefs. The new chief had just come in, and I told him, listen, we need community policing. We need to ensure that. And he did bring that in. He brought it in and he said, you know what, it's not just about assigning a few officers to this. It has to be every officer. Every officer has to accept community policing. I will say that was a change in the culture of the police department. That's where it started. I do believe that, it's unfortunate that because of what happened nationally, that there seemed to be a turnaround in terms of officers or people wanting to go into law enforcement. So we do have a shortage of law enforcement, but what has taken up that, because we're talking about really after school programming and things, I finally got the city manager to put money, the money from Measure X that was supposed to go to after school programming. Finally, it started to happen. So in the last 2 years, that gap is finally being taken in by community efforts with people from the neighborhoods, and also this wonderful thing that it started, and that is community murals. That project has really given opportunities for our youth to be able to heal from all the violence that has happened.
I'll tell you one. Public safety and keeping our residents safe is our #1 job as local leaders. I mean, that's it. We can't have safe parks, we can't have schools, roads, if we're not safe. And I While I understand that the statistics are down, I'm not optimistic that's the case of what people are seeing on the streets, unfortunately. I think violent crime, I'm hopeful that's more accurate. But what we're really seeing is the lack of consequences for these quality of life crimes, whether it's drug use and possession or theft. Our residents feel so frustrated that our cops' hands are tied that they don't call often. They don't report these crimes. Whether it's your car getting broken into, shoplifting at the store. This is the reality we're facing. Someone can steal less than $950 every day and get a ticket. Will not go to jail. That ticket will turn into a warrant as a misdemeanor. You can't book that person on that warrant. There's no consequences right now. And we have to turn that around. And we have a real chance this year with Proposition 36, which will undo parts of Proposition 47, which changed the laws for drug possession and theft. But we have to take that step. As I look around the state and I see places like San Francisco and LA, what they become. I mean, San Francisco's in what they call death spiral, because it is so difficult to have conferences in there. No conferences mean the restaurants don't survive, which means the hotels don't survive. Well, your tax base goes down. I will tell you that is not gonna happen in our city. We're gonna support our cops. We're gonna make sure, we're gonna hire the best cops. We're gonna give them the best training. And we're gonna make sure they have oversight and they're out there working hard. But it's a challenge. Right now, we're down 26 officers. That's almost 10%. And it's tough to hire, but that's one of our challenges going forward is how do we retain the best officers and make sure they actually go out and protect our residents. But we're gonna use common sense policies in our city, and you're not gonna see the lawlessness you see in other cities in California.
Thank you.
Esther, Ryan has touched on Prop 36, which
Yes.
is on the November ballot. How do you feel about that proposition?
You know, I pretty much grew up with Summer Stephan, our district attorney, in terms of her career as a deputy district attorney, and then my career as a deputy public defender. So we started at the same place in the South Bay courthouse, and I've had an admiration for her for years. She actually reached out to me and said, I want your support for this. We need to have bipartisan support for this. And I listened to and I read what she wrote. She actually co-authored Prop 36. And so I said, yes, we need this. I am very upset about what's happened with people being able to commit crimes and not be held responsible for them. I was a very big supporter of drug court, which had the highest success rate. That was like 85%, and that was because there were consequences. If you didn't do it, you were going off to prison. So Prop 36, yes, we were going to have a media event this morning, and fortunately it got canceled. But yes, I am supporting Prop 36. I've also reached out to Todd Gloria, our mayor for City of San Diego, and he is supporting Prop 36. So it is truly a bipartisan effort. It is, focused on theft and ensuring that there are going to be consequences for theft, but it also talks about drug treatment, and it also talks about our homeless and getting real treatment for our homeless.
There are 5 other ballot propositions that might be of interest for our viewers to know how you each view them. 3 of them are bond-related issues, Prop 2, 4, and 5. 2 would be $10 billion for school construction. 4 is $10 billion for parks, energy, and water infrastructure. 5 reduces the supermajority for local infrastructure projects from 66 to 55. How do each of you feel about those 3 propositions? Ryan?
I'll tell you right now, with inflation at the highest it's ever been, I'm very concerned we're going to raise the cost of living even more. And I want to make sure with anything, and we have local tax measures on the ballot, that we actually get results from those tax measures. So I'm very skeptical. Eggs are almost up double, 70%. Meat's the same, a gallon of milk is the same. And we just continue to fix these problems by spending more money. And it's the same thing with what we've heard. We've spent 20-something billion on homelessness that we don't know where it went. The governor doesn't know where it went. And so when you have these other bond measures going forward, I am getting very frustrated with the lack of accountability for all this money that's being spent, which is why I do have serious concerns with these different measures that are going to raise the cost of living for everyone.
Esther?
Okay, so I haven't read them, so I don't know. I mean, hopefully there's nothing hidden, like the Prop 13 measure that sounded so good and then it's actually was so bad. But you know, setting aside the fact that I'm not hearing a hidden agenda, I support all four. I support schools, of course. Parks, absolutely. I mean, we definitely need a green space, and you said lowering the number of votes.
Supermajority.
Yes. We need infrastructure. We need to repair our infrastructure. If we don't, we'll end up basically getting lawsuits because people are falling down or something or getting injured, like City San Diego. I mean, you hear about these really very higher end doctors riding their bikes, and then, you know, because of something in the road, they end up, you know, with no quality of life, and the city ends up losing a ton of money over that lawsuit.
I think that's our problem, is you have leaders that don't even understand the ballot measures, and yet we're going to support them, and I think that's how money is not responsibly spent, or when you're not paying attention to actually what is it, but we're going to support it anyways. I think that's a concern. You know, where's the oversight for? How do we make sure we're actually getting this infrastructure done? And we know these contracts are being managed properly, and our residents, our citizens, when they don't have that disposable income, are actually seeing value on their tax dollars. So,
Are you saying you don't support schools, or is it not part?
I'm saying, I'd say before we support a ballot measure, you should understand it and read it.
I'm answering a question. I pretty much conditioned my response, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's move to Measure X. If you're
Yes.
both familiar with that, Measure X, how should that money be spent in the future? How much of a concern is Measure X for the city of Oceanside? While Carlsbad and San Marcos are at 7.75 and Oceanside would be 8.25. How do you both feel about that? How are you different on that?
I'm not sure we are too different on Measure X. I call it MX. Because it was something, for me, I wanted to make sure that we were going to do exactly what we said we were going to do. It's a general sales tax, right? And we basically described what the needs were of the city, and basically said we're going to have this oversight committee. So we're asking you, the public, to partner with us on this. We anticipated initially it would raise $11 million a year. We're now at $20 million a year. And we desperately need that help. It's for public safety, it's for after school programming, it's for infrastructure, it's to address homeless. I mean, we need that. We need those extra dollars to be able to do the things that the public wants us to address. Especially homeless. You know, we have to do it right. We can't just, you know, pass something because, oh, gee, it's cheaper. We have to do it correctly and not just have a revolving door. So, yeah, I think we're both in agreement that we support Measure X.
I put Measure X back on the ballot. I want the voters to decide, and I'm going to contrast that with Sandag tax. Measure X was very important to me that we actually delivered. I inherited Measure X when I came on council in 2019. I wanted to actually make sure we delivered on our promises, that we told our voters what we were going to spend it on. And we used the Measure X Oversight Committee. In general, I do not support raising taxes when inflation and cost of living is so high. The voters are going to decide, but we have used this money the way we've said it's going to be used. We have improved our unrestricted net financial position in the city from, you know, 20 million in the red in 2019 to 50 million in the black, and that's not our general fund, obviously, but we have used it, I think, very judiciously to make our city better while not adding on to our PERS costs and not having these ongoing programs that are going to add money to our general fund. But it's a challenge when you put a tax on the ballot with inflation at these levels, and our voters are going to tell us, you know, how we've done with that this November.
Is there any evidence that the disparate sales tax rates between Carlsbad and San Marcos and the City of Oceanside has made any difference at all? Either of you know?
No, and I think
I don't believe so.
but now you're seeing other cities with challenges. San Marcos is putting a 1 cent sales tax measure on the ballot. Escondido's doing the same. We have Oceanside, for a city that we have almost half the per capita tax revenue that our neighbor to the south has. But we provide great services for a fraction of the cost because we run a very lean government and get the most out of every dollar. And that's how we're able to operate with a surplus, where you have cities that make a lot more money than us that are running into deficits in the next 3 or 4 years. I mean, we have Escondido is going to have a $10 million structural deficit, and their challenges. With responsible management the last 5 years, we've really put our city in a position to succeed, and that's my ultimate goal with Measure X, is we can't tax ourselves out of challenges and government services. Every time you have to manage your city properly, and you have to encourage business and bring revenues up instead of just making people pay more. It's how do you actually produce more, whether it's TOT tax. For TOT tax, when I started, we made 1/3 of what Carlsbad made. We saw that as a big opportunity. We've doubled it in the last 5 years. And we're going to keep doing those and taking advantage of those opportunities to make sure we provide the services that I know the mayor and I agree on. Parks, getting our streets fixed. I mean, those are things our city needs, and that's how you fix them.
How do you each see the role of the city's role in economic development vis-a-vis trying to bring jobs into the city? Esther?
We desperately need to bring jobs to the city. As you know, you've been around in Oceanside and writing about Oceanside for many years, Ken. So you know that there were plans. There were plans to have commercial areas, places for jobs, office, and all of that got converted to residential. I'm thinking RDO Road, when there was supposed to be a flyover, it was to be able to get to the commercial areas. Well, all of that turned into residential, and on the Carlsbad side, it was Carlsbad's idea. They decided not to build on that side and took it off their circulation element. But bottom line is, and I'm sorry, I forgot the question.
I was asking, what is the city's role in trying to do economic development and bring jobs to the city?
Yes, the city's job. We need to do more, get more job training in Oceanside. We are seeing our community not being able to afford to even stay here, right? We're seeing gentrification, and we need these jobs here. Over 64% of our workforce travels outside of Oceanside in a car, and that's adding to the traffic congestion. We also need to ensure that the folks who work in our hotels, in our restaurants, are able to work here. So if we don't do anything at all, we are going to lose even more of our workforce, and gentrification is just basically going to take away all the homes. So we need to do more. We need to be going to these conventions. We need to be bringing people here. We need to do the studies to find out what is it, what kind of training do we need for our communities. Sandag has work centers that are located in Carlsbad, not in Oceanside. So what does that mean? Add a whole lot of housing in Oceanside for Carlsbad's work centers? I mean, that doesn't make sense. We need to have jobs. We need to have livable wage jobs here in Oceanside.
And how do we attack that?
We do. And one of the most important things is by actually having city leadership that supports economic development. And this is a challenge, and this is where Esther and I differ very greatly, is unfortunately our mayor didn't support having a biotech company come into Oceanside. Our mayor voted no for that. Our mayor also voted no for the new arena, the Front Wave Arena. These are jobs, and this is economic development that's going to create that tax base to provide those services. And I think when we fight everything, we have to make sure this economic development is right for our city, and we want those great paying jobs. But we need to make sure we're creating that environment and letting investors and businesses know that we want them in Oceanside, we want those jobs, and we're going to actually be there and support them. And in the past, we haven't always done that here, and I'm hoping we can fix that in the future and actually bring these great opportunities to our residents. I mean, one thing When I was new on council, I realized there was a gap in job training for a lot of technical skills, and we created a Hire Local program that partnered with Mayoral and provided grant programs for different vocational skills, and then connected them to Oceanside employers. I mean, a 4-year degree is not right for everybody, especially with the way college is now. It's just not a great fit. You can get a certificate for all kinds of different trades and professions quickly and get actually up and working and trying to save for your first house. And hopefully the council can be united and build that great environment for business and say we want these jobs in Oceanside.
We've had such a robust discussion here. We're rounding out our questions for the race for City of Oceanside Mayor. Something we call an open shot. We'll like to give each of you the opportunity to ask your opponent a question. And keep in mind that each of you will ask each other a question as we round it out before we go into our closing remarks. So we'll start with you, Mayor. What would you like to ask Ryan here during this forum?
Yeah, I was really puzzled, Mr. Keim, when we were trying to come up with a project. Now, I voted yes for the $5 million, even though that was from the $32 million for ARPA funds, $5 million set aside for sand. But I believed in that. I believed that we were going to get sand on our beach within a couple of years, maybe 3 years. And then the first thing you did was go with a groins project, and then basically told every city in the North Coastal area, I don't care what you think. You know, I don't care. We don't need your support. In the Coastal Commission, oh yeah, Coastal Commission can go, you know, take a walk. I mean, all of this strong language when you know that we need the support, we need regional support for anything we do that's going to cost money if we're going to try to be able to get the money to be able to build this. So why did you do that? Why did you basically piss off every mayor, every council member in North County? I mean, I just didn't understand. North Coastal.
I absolutely did not. I'm very puzzled that this is the multiple times this forum that you've repeated false information. It's disappointing. This is what I'm going to.
Okay, well, let me just say.
Let him answer. Let him answer the question.
This is what's puzzling to me here. I've been on council since 2019. We took action the next year. Our current mayor's been on council for 24 years, and instead of partnering and saying, what can we do different? We just shoot down every idea, and this is how we don't get anything done. And it's mind-boggling. And this is, I think this is a pattern, but it's mind-boggling that we wait till others to take action and criticize it without any other alternate solutions. I'm very open-minded about what we can do and what we can get done, and partnering to figure out how we do that. But it's disingenuous, at least, to make those statements when you've done nothing for 24 years to solve this critical issue.
Ryan, would you like to ask the mayor a question?
Yes, and this goes to the core of leadership. Mayor, earlier this year, you had verbally abused staff members to the point where it had to be documented. It was a violation of our ethics code. It had to be documented by the city manager. I want to know if you're sorry and you regret that, and if you can make a pledge to everyone that you're going to treat staff members and our residents with the dignity and respect they deserve.
Okay, first I do want to answer the question about the biotech. The biotech that wanted to actually locate in our park, our El Corazon Park. I thought that a biotech company that admits it ships hazardous waste out once a month was a wrong fit there. Maybe a fit for a different part of the city, but not at El Corazon. So yeah, and those kind of jobs, unfortunately, are not Oceanside jobs. And as to a beloved employee that I've known for many years and that we have worked together, it was a misunderstanding. Bottom line is, it was a very passionate discussion about our art and supporting art in our communities that are basically poor and that need the help, need the leadership of staff. And so basically we disagreed. Now, I did call her 2 days later and said, you know, I want to apologize, let's get together, I want to talk to you. But I guess that wasn't enough. There had to be some kind of a memo. But bottom line is, I love our employees. This is the first time in 24 years that I've done that. If you look at my record, I have a record of getting along with the staff and getting things done because we work together, because we're able to do that. So I already told her I was sorry, and I actually did that to her personally and also publicly on the dais.
Thank you very much. We're basically out of time, so I think we should move on to closing statements. I think, Ryan, you're up first.
I want to thank Vance Veterans Association, North County, and KOCT for being here today and your time. As you go into November this year, I want you, when you have a good opportunity in the mayor's race, you have two people that have been on the council for a significant amount of time, and I want you to judge us based on what we've actually done. Not what we said we're going to do, what we've actually done. Tangible results you got, and what we're going to do in the future. That is critical that you have that this year. Oceanside is in an incredible position right now, but we have to keep our city safe. We have to fix our beaches. We have to address our homeless crisis, and not just push it around, but actually enforce our laws and keep our city safe. I have the experience. I'm a proven leader. I've dealt with these issues for years. I'm excited to have the opportunity to keep doing it, and I would love to have your vote this November. Thank you for your support.
Esther.
Thank you. I'm from a 5-generation Oceanside family. I have a background and I was very, very fortunate to get a scholarship to Brown University. I have a background in planning. I have a law degree. I have been able to put that into use as a people's mayor, basically, people's council member. I wrote the referendum for the mobile home rent control to save rent control, and we did that 2-to-1. I use my legal expertise to save seniors to keep their senior status in order to be able to keep our seniors in their homes. I have done so much. I have pushed. I actually am the reason why we have El Corazon in the first place, 500 acres there, because it was able to get us out of the Manchester 12-story project. There is so much that I've done in Oceanside, and I know that I probably have at some point or other talk with you, but I am the one. Mr. Keim has done absolutely nothing in the last 5.5 years except hide behind a supermajority. That's all he's done. And there's not one grain of sand. And every time I hear someone say they met with Mr. Keim, basically they say, you know what, he says, you know, I'm happy to meet with you, but there's nothing I can do. There's nothing I can do. I know that I can do this. You know that in the past I've done everything. Whenever I say I'm going to get something done, I do it. So vote for me, Esther Sanchez, the people's mayor. Let's take back Oceanside from the Keim majority. Thank you.
I'd like to thank you both, Mayor Esther Sanchez and Deputy Mayor Ryan Keim. I'd like to thank you viewers for staying with us in this very important KOCT forum. We will be right back for more. We're going to do District 3 candidates in just a few minutes. Once again, I'd like to thank Veterans Association of North County for hosting this. He did. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. We'd like to thank KOCT and the Veterans Association of North County for hosting us. Great discussion, everyone. The coverage continues right here on KOCT.
KOCT, its board of directors, staff, and the City of Oceanside do not support nor promote any candidates. We provide the following program as a public service for voters. All candidates have been invited to participate in this program, but not all were able to or chose to do so.
You're watching KOCT Television in Oceanside.